I was talking to you a little bit before the podcast here about repairs because honestly, your clinic has become one of the clinics that most repair patients seek. Uh, the issue is that, you know, a lot of these repair patients have expectations that don't really match reality, right? Once you're a repair patient, once you've had your donor decimated, the top scarred, you have to scale back your expectations. It's never going to be like operating on a virgin scalp, and sometimes repairs take, it's a multi-step process, right? Because not only do you have to undo all of the stuff that the previous clinic or technicians did, but you also have to improve on that. So one session might be just removing grafts that are misaligned, and fixing a decimated donor, restocking the donor. Maybe you could talk a little bit more about what does a repair entail. What have you been seeing lately in your clinic?
Lately, with the progress that we've made with FUE, unfortunately, there are also some setback because
Mm,
people are seeking either cheaper or people with no expertise that will just destroy completely the donor. Beside destroying the donor is all the scarring on a recipient area,
mm,
using bigger tools to make incisions, leading, scarring, cobblestoning, ridges along the hairline that make almost any graft that can be placed there almost impossible to grow. So when patients come with a lot of plugs and you explain to them that it may take 3-4 sessions, and even after those 3-4 sessions they may require to go see a laser specialist to do some sort of laser resurfacing so that the skin can be smooth. They think that is we just blowing smoke into their face. They want everything to be done quickly and yesterday. And so when they are scarring and then you're removing, so you're creating another scarring layer. So it's important that patients understand that repair take time. Uh, we sometimes have to figure out angulation because when dealing with this repair and removing them, the angulation is nowhere normal. You can
mm.
have two follicles that are next to each other. One is looking south, one is looking west. And so you
Yeah.
need trying to remove them without creating a bigger hole
Yep.
that will lead to more scarring. And when you're doing on a hairline, it's unforgiven because now you're gonna leave the patient with scarring. And the temporal recession area is where I see the most butcher job because I think a lot of doctors just don't understand how the hair lay on a recession and the transition on a temple. And so you have people who have hair that are almost like antennas standing,
Yep.
and so then and then the choice of the type of hair that's being placed. uh, I see a lot of patients where they need a hairline work but the harvesting is done in the back. you know
Yeah.
Harvesting in the back is the easiest thing to do. So most doctor or most clinic will quickly go and harvest hair in the back. But when you really need a hairline work, there's no need to go take bigger follicles in the back. You can harvest hair from the side. That's where you have the surface hair, and then you can have a surface hairline and not this harsh. hair that we see from the occipital area. So the challenge we're facing with the repair is decimated donor, decimated recipient, and patient. They go to the clinic that offer them 5,000 6,000 grafts, and then the donor is completely destroyed. They still uh, diffuse thinning, and they want a full head of hair with a hairline of Brad Pitt uh, or
Yeah,
George.
Jake Gyllenhaal's hairline, huh?
Exactly.
You know, the tricky thing, and this is what I've witnessed on the Hair Restoration Network, and I've seen a lot of patients who have had really bad hairlines, and a lot of the times they go to great clinics to repair them, but they're not satisfied because of two reasons. Either they didn't remove enough of the previously transplanted hair, or there's not enough actual, new transplanted hair to disguise it. So my question to you would be, what is your approach when someone comes to you with a completely, messed up hairline, botched sides and everything? Do you first want to remove those grafts and then at a second session, try to transplant? Because I feel like sometimes these patients are a little bit unreasonable and wanting everything all at once in one step. It's a lot. You got the donor that needs to be treated. You got, a lot of the times right here in this side, it's completely like closed off and angled weird, and it looks like, cat whiskers. So you got to remove those hairs. Then you have to actually treat the hair loss itself by adding more grafts. So you have all these different moving pieces. What do you prioritize first?
You know, when dealing with removal, what I tell patients is if we take too much of this hair out, we might creating more harm than good, because we may creating more scarring. You end up like a Swiss cheese with a lot of scarring, and there will be no way you're gonna hide it. So we have to be cautious. So what I do, I usually remove one out of every 2 or 3, just because I want to maximize the harvesting and also to minimizing the scarring. So it's not always possible to remove everything at once and to rebuild at the same time, just because when you remove something, probably it was misangled. So you cannot come again in between those removal holes, making site to place new hair, while you have all these holes that are communicated between them, that may expose some of the graft outside, and the graft may not grow just because you have holes everywhere, and some of those bulb may be exposed. So it's better to do a good removal session, and I usually do 2 3 removal session before rebuilding.
Hmm.
Most of the time patients are not happy because they want everything to be fixed, but it goes about educating them and explaining them the reasoning.
Yeah.
uh, it take one operation to mess you up, but it may take several operations to fix you. So it's important
Mm.
that people start doing the due diligence, not just by seeing glamorous pictures that some people may post. Every day we fight with clinic that are using our patients on the advertising material.
Yeah.
So people need to start really looking at forums and see patients who are actually presenting their own case, because it's one thing for a clinic to show all the good results they have, and it's one thing another thing for a patient to show his own result, his own account with his own camera, and show all the different flaws of sometimes not glamorous pictures, but that's the reality of hair transplant.
Absolutely. I feel like you hit the nail on the head there. Cherry picking pictures and putting them on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, all this stuff is completely different than when patients come on, for example, the Hair Restoration Network and share their actual genuine reviews, share their pictures. And a lot of the times, patients aren't taking pictures in the most favorable lighting scenarios. They may wet their hair, they may do different things to really show the public what it actually looks like. Whereas, like a lot of clinics, will take pictures of what looks like in a broom closet with no lighting, terrible lighting. The before picture is lit up very well, and then the after picture is like
It's in a
it's like
dark room, and
it's in a dark room, and it looks, you can't really see what the result actually is. And so I think it's so important to see actual reviews. And I have to say, on record, that you have probably the top 3 most reviews on the Hair Restoration Network. And I have to say that 99% of them they're knockouts. I mean, they're fantastic. Um, the results, the hairlines always look great, but at the same time, you also seem to get a lot of haters for some reason. It's it's fascinating, and I don't really know. I don't know why or how you would get haters. It's fascinating to me.
if you don't, you know, the good the good prophets say, in this life you face tribulations. So I'm a firm believer that you go through life, and not everybody will love you or will like you, but it's part of you know you stepping on some people's toes or some people ego. But it's part of life. Don't focus on that. Focus on the work that we do. I do get a
Absolutely.
lot of credit, but I have a team that some of them have been with me for the past 20 years. You know,
Oh yes.
most of my technician, as senior technician, they've been with me almost since the beginning. So we have spent countless time together. I've placed a lot of graft myself for a long time, so I know exactly, and I've taught them what they need to do and how they need to do it. Uh, so it's like an orchestra. Everybody need to know where to play the partition. So when we're facing with repair patients, you have, first of all, the psychological part of it, patients feeling down and maybe angry and not trusting. So you have to make sure that they understand the process. You have to explain the process. And sometime when you harvest those hair, some of those hair may be lost during the harvesting process, because they may have 4 or 5 grafts. You may harvest 3 because you don't want to take a bigger punch to remove the 5. So I've been asked question if you can replant those grafts. Yes, most of those grafts will replant them either in a donor or behind, uh, within the existing hair, depending on what we discuss with the patient. So I think there's some questions about that. Um, so I think repair patients, when starting hair transplant, I didn't know that I'm gonna end up doing a lot of repair. We have almost now 40% of our work are repair.
Yeah.
And I just came from London, where I was having consultation this weekend, and the amount of repair, the amount of devastation, is almost like it make you almost feeling like crying,
Yeah.
because it doesn't matter how many times we go to this meeting and explaining doctor what not to do, but it's just people just don't care. And I think a lot of patients, uh, they will take more time to choose their car when they want to
Than a
purchase a
surgeon.
car than the surgeon. And I
Yeah.
think that people need to understand that this is your image, this is your face, and the donor is finite resources. So you cannot just deplete it and expect that things will turn around by themselves. It's very hard. It's heartbreaking sometimes. Sometimes we have to tell the patient that there's nothing we can do. If you have a patient who doesn't have anybody here, the donor is completely decimated, there's not much you can do.
Yeah, that's the most heartbreaking scenario. And I think people always associate Turkey with, hair mills and botched work and everything. But people don't realize that actually there's a great deal of even worse clinics in the US and the UK.
Now the
Um,
repairs are coming from all over. I think, yes,
yeah,
the Turkish clinic, uh, they don't do service to what they do, but in Turkey you have great hair transplant doctors, and but they also suffering from the reputation that these clinic are doing to themselves. And so, we cannot just say bad hair transplant come from Turkey. That's not right.
absolutely not. Yeah.
That's not correct. There are bad hair transplant coming from all over the place. And it's getting worse and worse because now you have plastic surgeon who have zero clue about hair transplant. And for them, it's just a add-on
Moneymaker.
revenue. I can go do my BBLT there while somebody else is punching, and then uh, at the end it's just a profit. So that's what happened. The state of hair transplant today, it's scary. Uh, when someone is asking if we make a hole, is not gonna leave a scar, you know, in surgery, when you make a hole that is less than 1 millimeter, usually it heal well without creating a scar. So the choice of also the punch that you're going to use to remove is gonna matter. If you make a
Hmm.
hole that is a little bit bigger, then you have to suture it to make sure that you minimize. Some of you sometimes have seen some of my repair where the patient end up being suture with a lot of suture around. The goal is just to compress the hole, so uh, to minimize the scarring.